Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my audios. Million, trillion, billion years to come. Always remember, there was a time before you was born. And technology is the key trail and the road to walk to that. And for those people who do not understand a time before you're born, you must ask yourself, my mother and my father, they was here before me. Understand it? And there was someone before your mother and your father, because your mother and your father have a mother and a father. And their mother and a father have another mother, father. So the population continue. But have you ever asked yourself, what was my first mother? Or my first grandmother? Where did they come from? Do they come from the transformed race? Do they come from the alien race or a species race before they descend to a human? These are some things you gotta question yourself and to understand yourself and where you are and who you really is and what understanding you have of mankind. Because when you check a time before you're born, the fruit was exist before you. The soil was exist before you. The sun and the moon was exist before you. And cars, bikes was exist before you. You might born into a time where the car and bike wasn't, but what happened now, there was a time where it happened, but through technology it happened. But it's always going to be a time before you. And when you pass and gone, there's going to still be a time before you. And when people check the levels of teaching, you have to like do a recap on your teaching and their teaching, because you got your mother teaching, your father teaching, your church teaching, and all other different teaching. Some people only go off of what they teach. They don't have no knowledge of what they teach. This is why some of them said, if a question pop on this and say, let me ask my pastor, let me ask my professor. Then in the meantime now you have some people who say, let me do some research. I didn't think of that. Let me give it some thinking, and I'm going to look into that question or scenarios or what you pose at me, and then I'm going to give you my take on it. Understand? But if you dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, you will notice there's something exists before you. And when you think you're slick, what exists before you know you. And when you think you get away with something or someone that exists before you know that play. For example, cheating play. With experience, a person could see a cheating play, a lying play, a deceiver, a liar, and a cheater. Understand? And no good for me. Experience could do you that. And some people catch it from a younger age, and some people don't. You understand? Some people will have a household where they teach them about the streets, people behavior, what to look for and what not to look for, and what to eat, what not to eat, and what to stay away from. You understand? And those people who telling that person, because that person exists before that person, so that person might have an understanding. But some people exist before you, and if you are a young teen or a teenager, they do not have experience. They didn't went into the world to explore, so they just stick to what they teach them. Instead, they don't have no knowledge of what they develop on their own. So you might come to the knowledge of your own or some way of thinking of your own, and they might call it crazy. Understand? And say that don't make sense because your teacher didn't teach it, and the school didn't teach it to you, or your pastor didn't teach it, or your mother didn't teach it. But there's always something exists before you. This is why you have to have a wide mind. You don't put a shadow block on a next person's thought. Understand? If you look at music exists before all of us. On the day the line created, music was there because melody is the sound. You understand? When the wind blows, it's melody. When you stop your feet, it's a melody. If you knock a stone, you hear melody. Even if you close the door, you hear a melody. If you don't hear a melody, you hear a beat drop. You hear a kick. You hear the train rocking. If you listen carefully, it's giving you a melody. It's giving you a beat knock. You understand? And this goes for musician. But for the regular people, it's the same thing. You hear the wind blow, you might hear whistle. You're something always giving you a rhythm for you to follow. But guess what? It exists before you. No, so if you take a pen and a paper and write down what exists before you and do some research on what they say of it and what they teach of it, you might find senses in it, you might find error in it. Because look at dog. I went and checked who created dog, and then I realized they don't have the proper knowledge. Then when I learned another level, I said, oh, this is where dog came from. Then I check the Bible, because the Bible is around before me. I check all the stories and I see a lot of hocus pocus in the Bible and a whole lot of things that don't make no sense to me. Understand? And some people say I'm crazy, but when I check the mathematics, I always look for the day and the night. You understand? The left and the right and the balance. Because someone before me can write a knowledge for me. But as time go by, the people knowledge grow. The people way of thinking change. The way they see things, the way they do things, the way they dress. But even though it repeats itself, it still comes with a little different way of thinking. Because my mother generation, in this time that I am in, 2025, they didn't have cell phone. It's when my mother grew up now, she started to adapt the phone and technology. When I was going to school, we didn't have beeper. When beeper came out, it was a thing to do. I've mentioned this in many things. But when you check it, it was all exist before, because someone could use a technology time period, travel and go live in that time, and it advanced more than you. Because some people is up on what they call it. What's the word? They're up on future before you. Understand? They can go see the songs before you see them or hear them. As far as the stars them, before you start to sing them, you can go ahead and they could walk ahead and know your mother, your father, and your sister, and all the new basketball players and who gonna make his song and who not gonna make his song. Because there's a time that exists before you, and no one can change it or stop that. Anyone try to pass laws on time, man, you be stupid to do that. Any government here say they're gonna pass time on thing, bullshit. Because when you check it, it got many dimensions. This is why I mentioned M1. And A is just one dimension, but with A it comes as a zillion line. Like for example, Earth is one dimension, and this dimension might have many land. Many land, because in this dimension you got Jupiter, Mars, Pluto, and Mercury, and a ton more. What we know and what we don't know of, and they only give us 9 planets. And then when they give us the 9 planet, the one before us trick us and say, well, no one can live in Mars. It's cold up there, and he writes some nonsense. It was just only to cover it. But when you learn of time travel, you realize that they pop the sun. Understand? They deactivate that, and they destroy a lot of land. Understand? When I know the truth about caving land, I realize this time before me, because there's Earth before this Earth. Zillions and trillions of Earth before this Earth, and they could use a warp line and came to this time, 2025 or 2020, 26, 27, 28, 29, 230, go up to 40, 2000, 76, 70, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, come all the way up. And our ancestors will be in slavery time. You understand? But they're living here. But at that time they might come from Mars and Jupiter and Pluto's and other Earths that you don't know. Dragon land, Bobo land, Rasta land, Alligator land, Nam land, many land. You understand? You gotta check these things. These things exist before you. So what I'm trying to hedge you up on, that when you're in this land, Earth, remember, you're working off a methodology. And someone come before you and write this methodology. But when you look into the methodology, it have errors in the methodology, tricks in the methodology. Understand? But there's a master create that methodology to control his creation. Nothing wrong with that, because if you create someone, create the people, you have to have a manual they follow, because everything have a manual. Understand? So when you check it deeply, those time that exists before you, they was working on a certain time period of knowledge, certain way of thinking of knowledge. Understand? And this way of thinking of knowledge comes with a different approach, different way of talk. If you check the TV in 1931 or 1930 when the TV program just started. Listen how they speak. You hear a different way of speaking, in a melody, in the way it pour out, the way they used to read the news, the way the president used to do a speech. If you listen to Martin Luther King speech and Malcolm speech and listen to Farrakhan's speech, you hear a totally different way of speaking. If you listen to Obama's speech now, it's different from how the first president of America speak. Understand? What I check it in a form where we grow and speak of a tone. If you watch basketball, you realize the basketball they used to wear pum pum shots. It was way too small, and then as you realize time over here, there's slang. You understand? But there was a time before you exist, and those time period passed. But now you got some people now might dig it up and like far as the clothes goes and the slang goes and the hairstyle, bring it back. But you must always think about the time before you exist, the time before you're born. I'm trying to put you on there. Someone know what you think they don't know. You feel me? You understand me? Yeah, you must feel this and understand it. And this is the levels that I understand. This is why I move different. Always think of time before you're born, man. When you think you're slick, there's someone slicker. When you think you're fast, someone faster. You gotta stay on your P's and Q's at all time. Because someone from the time of Queen Sheba could come ask you a question. Somebody from a land way out in the universe could come ask you a question, and you'll be like, but where? You know, but he been here. He probably asked that question 50 times already. But you do not have the knowledge. You know, you understand? He probably asked you the question before you're born. Have you ever think about a person asked you a question before you was born? Well, what the person did, the person used a time travel machine come ask you a question before you're born. You understand? Come ask you what they call it, you know, how love is. And you might have a daughter. Understand? And before you even born, that person went ahead and married your daughter. You understand? That was time before you're born. And then when you got the daughter in the belly, he could come back, the daughter could come back and say, hi mom, hi dad, but you wouldn't know that's your daughter. You understand that? The game is deep. So you must always think about the time before you was born. You understand? This is how you keep your road flow. This is how you keep your goals going. You understand? Nothing ain't new under the sun. You must always think about other earth, think about other species, think about things that make us stronger and what does make us weak. But the key to everything is think about the time before you was born, because there's many. You just gotta have the time period and the time machine to do that. Understand that? And it's not wrong to talk about it, because everybody understands. Many people, many selves, many time machine. And remember, tell the people who listen to this million, trillion, jillion years from now, A dimension, B dimensions, and D and Z and 26 dimension and G dimension exists. Understand? What they must trying to find out is what dimension we are in. Some say it's A dimension. Some say it's 1 dimension. We're probably in 0 dimension. Remember, the warp is the 3rd dimension, or 4th dimension, or 5th dimension. At this. No, Portland is 5th dimension, I think, or 4th, or 5. Find out what dimension you're in. We are in Earth. Peace.